Hi everyone, I'm Damien.
And I'm Jeremy.
Welcome to our Suburb Data podcast, where we cover everything from property investing to expert busting. If you're new here, we share our personal and professional experiences from over 20 years in the game. So you skip the mistakes we made and go straight to property investment success. DSR3 is here, Jez.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming.
Yes.
New research platform.
Looking forward to this episode. I know a lot of people have been waiting for the new algorithm. So if you could sum up the DSR3 in one sentence for investors, what would it be?
Higher capital growth, of course, and that growth should last for longer.
So I thought I would get started with discussing, I guess, why we built the DSR3. So we've got DSR, which was founded in 2010.
Yep.
You've got the DSR Plus 2015, and then 2025, the DSR3. It's like the iPhone. What's the iPhone now? It's coming up to 17. So it's like the new iPhone, isn't it? The DSR3.
Yeah, I'm not an iPhone advocate.
So DSR3. Now, what's missing from the old, I guess, DSR Plus that the DSR3 has? Like, why have what's missing from it?
So a whole bunch of things. First of all, just a whole new approach.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, a bunch more metrics, of course. Thirdly, better analysis or better use of those metrics. Everything starting fresh from the ground up, much better algorithm.
So why not just improve it from, like with the DSR Plus being the latest algorithm, why not just build on top of that instead of starting from the ground up?
Well, when you start fresh, you get rid of some of the perhaps bad practices that you had before. So it'd become a bit of a dog's breakfast over the years too. And also by having a new algorithm, calling it a new name, then because it's on the new website, well, there's something awesome on the new website now to encourage people to move across from DSR data to Suburb Data.
And how is it different from predicting capital growth? Is there a big variance?
Yeah, this is a big step up. The step up from the basic DSR to DSR Plus was significant, noticeable, but the step up from DSR Plus to DSR3 is even more significant.
Do you know off the top of your head, percentage-wise, how much better it is from a capital growth perspective?
Not off the top of my head, and then it depends on for what period of time. But analysis and backdating suggests that, it's getting close to, I think it's around about double the national growth rate, whatever that is. But then it depends on the era. You know, you have a boom and it's more than double. You have a tough period of time. Actually, it's more than double in the tough periods of time because you might have a capital growth, the national growth rate might be only 3%. And you're finding a market with 8-9% capital growth. So it is more than double the national growth rate. However, if the national growth rate is something like 15%, then it becomes quite tricky to get more than double, which would be like 30% per annum. So, it's a good whack better than the national growth rate. That's how we measure it. And the outperformance can last for over a decade.
Because on the current model, I guess we've got like obviously DSR Data, which has been around since 2015, dsrdata.com.au.
Yes, that's right.
So a lot of our members and subscribers use that platform. So that's just a monthly fee. But even then, I've asked you, there's DSR Plus, and our DSR3. People are going to ask, well, obviously we say DSR3 is the best because we've back tested it, you've worked through it, more data. So that's what people should be using. But then I think a lot of people are going to be maybe resistant to a bit of that change, which we'll talk about shortly. And just why do they still look at DSR, for example? Why shouldn't everyone just use DSR Plus as an example?
That was a mistake with the DSR data website to have both algorithms there. It created confusion. People thought they should be looking at both, or maybe there are two different things. I didn't make it clear that DSR Plus was the next version, so obviously it's better. But the old website will still run for a while because, I don't know, some people might prefer that interface. They've got their own thing that they're looking for. But, once the DSR Plus came along, I never looked at the basic DSR And similarly, now that DSR3 is here, I never look at DSR plus.
Yeah, and I guess with that, I never look at DSR, and I haven't even looked at DSR plus for a while. I just look at obviously our new platform, just because it's taken a bit of time. Obviously, with a lot of the testing and being in there a lot, it is a bit more, I'd say, technical, and it takes a bit of time to get up to speed. So for all our users, we are working hard to continually to make it better. We are listening to feedback, so we are working really hard in the background.
Yeah, there's room for enhancements too.
Now, another thing which is going to be, again, like we've spoken about a lot, is the pay-per-use model. So at the moment, you've got like a subscription-based service with DSR Data and all the other research platforms. A lot of memberships are subscription-based, monthly fees that you pay, but our new model is pay-per-use. Now, pay-per-use is going to be fantastic for not the heavy users. And I still think there's a lot of value. Like if you sign up for DSR Pro, you're looking at $270, but you could use that for our new platform and you'd be able to shortlist your market, look at heat maps, market metrics, and still hone in on the property that you're looking for.
Yeah, so the whole idea of pay-per-use, over the years, people have said, can I use your website for 1 week or even 1 day? And then there's people who don't want to look at all the metrics. They've got something in their head that they're researching. So if you have only 2 pricing options, we had Light and Pro on the old website, it never perfectly suits everyone because everyone has a different period of time they want to use it, different statistics they want to look at, different features they want to research with, and a different volume of requests and period of time that they want to use it for. So having just 2 options never suits anyone perfectly. Pay-per-use does.
My favourite thing on the new platform, which we'll do a quick tour now so anyone can watch that via any device or any of the platforms, we'll show it up on the screen. But I really like most probably the heat maps, and I like a lot of the saved searches that we can do now because DSR Data, I remember before I even met you, I emailed you on DSR Data saying, Jeremy, I want to save my searches, please. And we haven't got there yet, but we've got it in our new platform.
Yeah, that's one of the great features of the new platform. Whole bunch of other features based on feedback that we've got from people over the years. And
I think it's important, just go through all the tutorial videos that we've put up too, because that way you'll get up to speed. And if you do get stuck, you can message podcast@suburbdata.com.au if you do need help or any sort of consultancy, because you can do it yourself and spend all day, which, look, obviously it's our bread and butter.
You think of bed and breakfast.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I haven't had breakfast yet. But obviously it's just one of those things you can use someone that knows the tool back to front and get it done really quickly and pick up that skill fast, or you can try and do it yourself, go through the tutorials, similar to what DSR Data's like. That's what a lot of people do now anyway, don't they? Go through our tutorial videos. So they're on our website and via YouTube. Alrighty, so do we want to bring up the platform, Jeremy? What do we think?
Sure, let's show what we've got so far.
Alrighty, so if we just let's have a look. All right, so I thought you're a first timer, where do you start? So you log into the platform and you'll notice that there's 5 features. You got suburb search, heat maps, market metrics, historical charts, context rulers. So everything pretty much from DSR Data.
Well, the heat maps are new, but in fact, each one of these research tools has enhancements based on what we've learnt in the past, and there's more enhancements to come. But heat maps is the only research tool that wasn't in DSR Data, and we've got more research tools coming up.
And I think I think it's important to bring up maybe the main website, and this is where you can look at the tutorials. So I think getting started is the main section where we want to be, correct? So you can go through the getting started tutorials. There's a whole tutorials page there. We've also got all the playlists. So that's where you should really be starting, correct?
I would start at getting started. Yeah, makes sense.
Getting started. And then for me, it's more about, okay, what's your strategy? What price point are you looking at? So I thought maybe did we want to, how can maybe you search for cash flow versus capital growth? So I'm an investor. I come to Jeremy, or come to you, Jeremy, and say, look, I want to buy a property. I want cash flow.
Yeah, so Suburb Search is the first tool that we recommend researchers use, and it's the basic idea behind it is you specify your situation, what's your budget, what's your appetite for risk, do you have any geographical restrictions? For example, we had one client, they wanted to buy in outside of Western Australia because they've got their principal place of residence, 2 investment properties in Western Australia. They want to diversify. May have another client that's paying too much land tax in New South Wales. So that would be a restriction that you'd put geographically. Or maybe you're doing a reno flip, and so it needs to be within 20 minutes of home. So that's where you would set your geographical restrictions. That's on the geography tab. And then you'd set the filters to things like your budget.
So if we step back, so for example, like we should have mentioned when you log in, there's a trial and live mode. So the purpose of trial mode is it's pretty much demo data, mock data. It's not real. The idea is that you can utilize the tool to understand how to use it before you commit to any charges, correct?
Yeah. That was one of the complaints people had about DSR data. Is there a free trial? And there wasn't. So the beautiful thing about this is you can switch back and forth between the free trial and live mode. In trial mode, you're looking at mock data. It's been faked, generated. It's not real. So don't make any investment decisions when you're in trial mode. But you can flick back to trial mode from live mode when you want to test a new feature.
So we've got data back from 2010. So we can go way back. But maybe as an example, maybe we do that now. What do you think?
Sure.
So let's just say we go back maybe, 2024, January.
All right.
So what's that, about a year and a half ago? Now, market type, we're looking for a suburb.
Yeah, so
Suburb?
generally there's 2 approaches here. You can look for suburbs, which is the obvious choice.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with suburbs is that for small suburbs, the number of transactions is quite small. You're looking at quite a small sample size, so a lot of the data that you get can be a little bit unreliable. So sometimes I like to just look at a larger area, like a local government area, maybe a postcode. An SA3 is my preferred one. It's about the size of a typical local government area. But yeah, let's just look for suburbs.
But we've got, I guess, we've got like default criteria for everyone that they can utilize. So for example, if we have a look at example 1, which is step 1, which is SA3 shortlist, it's a macro view. So we can click on that. And now what we can, as a first step, start looking at SA3s first, and then we can start honing into the actual suburbs as an example.
Yeah, that's one way you can do it, yeah.
So I think maybe we just start with that just for this example. And what is an SA3, Jeremy?
It's an area that the Australian Bureau of Statistics came up with. And what they try and do is have this area consistent in terms of population. So they use it for their census data. The scale is, an SA1 is a little bit smaller than a suburb. It's like part of a suburb. Mm-hmm. An SA2 is a set of SA1s, an SA3 is a set of SA2s, and it goes up to SA4, which is a set of SA3. So they're about 110, I think, SA4s around the country, and each SA4 consists of a set of SA3s. SA2 is around about the same size as a postcode.
Okay.
And an SA1 is a little bit smaller than a suburb.
So you'd start with an SA3 over like an LGA as an example.
Yeah, you could do LGAs, but then you get some monster LGAs like in Brisbane.
Okay. So let's just hit SA3s. We're looking for houses. Again, you can look at either. You can just look at units. It depends what your strategy is. Geography, look, I'll leave this blank for now. So blank just means we're going to look Australia-wide.
Yeah,
as an example.
That's where you put your geographical restrictions.
Now, let's just start with, let's work through some of the metrics. So DSR3, now we've got a minimum set here of 60. Is that like the benchmark that you would sort of look at for markets? Like how low would you go with that DSR3 score?
Well, whenever you are going to use a filter in the suburb search, you need to understand what's a good value, poor value, ordinary value, excellent value for one of these metrics. And to do that, I always look at a context ruler. But because I'm familiar with this, I know that I'd probably start with a reasonably high DSR. Usually when I'm doing my searches, I don't even put a restriction in for DSR. I just sort by DSR. So this is typically supposed to be your hard limits. What's your budget? That's a hard limit. when you restrict by geography, that's a hard limit. Your appetite for risk might be a hard limit. You might prefer more cash flow, but if your mortgage broker has told you, hey, you need to get at least 5%, then that would be another hard limit. But if you're just interested in yield being higher preferably, then that's a sort criteria. So typically for me, I just put in three things, even just two things, my budget and appetite for risk.
Okay, well, maybe just for now, I'll leave the DSR3 in there for now.
Sure.
And then we'll leave what's statistical reliability? Because this is an interesting one.
Yeah, so that's a score out of 100 for the reliability of the DSR. So we'll give a DSR for any suburb, even if it's got hardly any data. But the statistical reliability shows how confident we are of this score. So if you see a DSR of 80 and the statistical reliability is only 35, well, you might not want to take that risk. So it's just dependent on each investor's appetite for risk. And whenever you're unclear about a particular metric, just look at the context ruler for that metric.
And again, on our main site, we've got like the definitions also of all the metrics on the...
Yeah. Yeah,
So
what is
videos
it,
you've done
education, then metrics, I think.
Yeah, it's over here. We've got it as, I think it's under our data.
Oh, our data.
Yeah, our data, and there's a library there. You've done all the videos nicely there, Jeremy. Nice backgrounds.
It's just my talking face.
Yes. We've got, so typical values, the price point. So this is where the typical value in the yield, that should be done before. So I guess whenever you're thinking about strategy, the first thing shouldn't be the price point. It shouldn't be the yield. It's like you got to bring it to your circumstances first. Like what's happening? What future plans have you got? Are you planning on buying your owner occupier? When do you want to retire? How long is your hold period for a property? Because the strategy could be, I want to buy a property for, let's say, 2 to 3 years and then offload it, get that capital growth, sell, liquidate, and then go again potentially. Because there are times where you can sell. And you can look at different examples, like where a market's been flat the last 3 years, but then there's been other markets that have had 50, 60, 70% growth. So there is some weight to be said about recycling and what do we call it? Recontribution costs?
Reallocation. Of equity. Yeah.
Reallocation of equity. So that's being a bit more of an active investor. So first you have to work out, are you more passive, buy and hold, or active? My approach is I think it's good to have be a passive to an extent. And if you do have the time, then you can be active maybe with that second, third, fourth property. So I think it's good to have maybe a couple there that are just ticking away. But again, you still want to make sure that they are sort of still growing in the right direction.
Yeah.
And demand is still strong and supply is low. So typical value, let's just say we've got a budget up to maybe 700,000. And then yield, let's just say we're looking for a yield of, we'll just say 5%. That's more on the higher side. We'll just leave 5% and we'll see what that brings up.
That'll be tough to find something. You'll get some cheap ones in there. But
back in Jan 2024, so it'd be interesting to see what sort of pops up. But even if let's just be a bit more conservative and say 4. And a lot of people get caught up on the yield. The yield. It's just, but that really does limit the markets that you can go into. So yes, you can go to these regional markets and get that capital growth. But again, what's your hold period? Up to 5 years, or you're holding for a lot longer period?
Yeah, and the context ruler for a yield will show just how rare it is to get 5-6% yield.
Now, I guess how would you use the show and sort?
Yeah, so it's the metrics that I'm interested in. Obviously, I want to know where this what is it, SA3 we're looking for? I want to know possibly the significant urban area. If you're not familiar with significant urban areas, you might want to know the state as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you're searching for suburbs, you might want to know the postcode, because there's a suburb like Kingswood. There's 3 Kingswoods in New South Wales, so which postcode is it? And then you want to sort, and that's the right-hand column. So if you're after growth, you would sort by DSR from highest to lowest. If you're after yield, you would sort by cash flow, you would sort by yield from highest to lowest. Maybe vacancy rate would be a second sort preference. In this case, we've got our second sort preference as reliability. and then we're after a cheaper property. So TV is the third sort preference.
And you can obviously add more any metric that you want to see there. And again, we are working hard. Like that was obviously, it is clunky at the moment, just with the way that you can sort all the different metrics. But that's something that, as I said, this is version 1 of the platform. We are going to make it better. But as I said, in the criteria, we've got these sort of settings for users to use, and then they can adjust it and resave it the way that they like. But if we have a look at it, I think DSR3, statistical reliability, they're all sort of the main things for me. Rental yield, look, long-term growth doesn't really weigh on me too much. I'm really looking for that DSR3 is most probably and the statistical reliability. They're the two that I would look for.
Yeah, well, for me, I might look at, TV, obviously the demand supply ratio, statistical reliability, and then if I was interested in cash flow yield and vacancy rate maybe. But, yeah, things like the LTG, a lot of all these metrics, they're incorporated into the DSR. So when you're inspecting them on their own, what is it you're really looking for? You get the summary from the DSR.
So if we hit get quote, let's just see. So this is where, so it's going to cost us $12.78. And we've got a list of what we're actually paying for. So again, pay-per-use model, obviously the rural heavy users might not like it. You know, maybe some big BA firms that use DSR data heavily. But I guess users that just want to do some maybe lighter research aren't going to mind it, are they? Like you said, they just want to check on something, or they're more sporadic users.
Yeah, there was a tremendous number of people who just wanted to use DSR data for a short period of time. They just wanted to look up a couple of metrics. So this allows you to do that. You might not be doing this search. You might just be interested in the vacancy rate for your suburbs.
So if we have a look now, I've just hit get data, and if we look back, so this is data from January 2024. So obviously Perth was very hot back then. We've got a fair few. So this is like the SA3s now. You've got Gosnells, Wanneroo, Armidale. So pretty much all Perth. A bit of Darwin in there early on. But the statistical reliability is very strong. But clearly for me, I'm like, okay, well, WA's the pocket I would have hit back then based on the data.
Yeah, well, you just look at that top list there, Perth.
And remember, this isn't suburbs. This is the SA3. So normally if I'm doing a suburb search, if I see the top 10 suburbs and they're all over the place, I would want to look for a bit of reliability, seeing, and maybe if I see several in a certain SA3 or an SUA, that would give me more confidence. And that's where you can use heat maps to go, okay, I'm looking for those clusters, because if you just look for those outliers, they don't hold a lot of weight for me.
Yeah, an individual suburb on its own, that's where heat maps can come in handy too, because you can see where they all are. So if it's an isolated suburb, that looks hot, but then there's an area where there's a bunch of suburbs that look hot. Well, got more confidence in the area.
And then the other thing is too, you've got like obviously the yield. So you can see the yields that we factored in there. So very strong in Perth, as we know. But then the long-term growth rate back then, which is like a 10-year per annum average, was very low. Obviously, if we look at the data now at WA, that long-term growth rate would have been pushed up with the amount of growth that Perth has seen. But we are going to have other metrics in there, things like 3-month growth rates, 6 months, 12 months, aren't we? That's the plan.
Yeah. All the past growth that you could look at, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20.
And I know you normally, at the start of the month, it's like Christmas come early, you give me a nice data set with, how many rows is it? Like thousands. I can't remember off the top of my head, but that's more at the back end, isn't it?
Yeah, straight off the database.
Straight off the database.
When you go to a baker's and you get warm bread.
It's unlimited data. Love it. So I guess this is suburb search. What I guess is a common trap people fall into when they're looking at these numbers, because it can be very overwhelming. Like a lot of people just want to get it done. They do maybe some property courses, or they go online and try and learn different things in different ways. So there's obviously all these different approaches, but the data doesn't lie.
Yeah, I think the biggest, most frequent mistake that I see, it's not a big mistake, but it is a frequent mistake, is people just putting in too many filters. So every time you add a filter, that is restricting the amount of suburbs that the algorithm can sort for you. So, for example, a lot of people know vacancy rates, a balanced market is 2%. So they'll set a hard limit. I don't want to buy in a suburb that has a vacancy rate higher than 2%. But the problem with that is, let's picture a suburb. Let's say it's got 200 houses. 20% of the occupants or residents in that area are renters. So that means there are 40 rental properties. That's 20% of 200, 40 rental properties, 40 houses that are landlord owned. Now, if just one of those is vacant, that is 2.5%. Now, every other metric in this suburb could be fantastic, off the charts. It could be the best suburb ever in the history of Australian property data to invest in. But because you've set vacancy rate at 2%, you never see it. And that's because of one property that's vacant. Now, you keep putting in more and more filters, you are going to have more and more of the same problem. Instead, you want the broadest view of the property market and then sort those by DSR from highest to lowest. There's no point investing in $1 million market if you've got a budget of 500,000. That's why you put in your filter for the TV. But there's no reason for you to put in a filter for vacancy rate. You're not finding better suburbs. Vacancy rate is already considered by the DSR. Investors don't need to use it. And I see that mistake quite often.
And you could have that like 1 or 2 bad months of like maybe there's a couple more rental properties that have come on and then you're just wiping that suburb. So like I said, don't get too granular, I guess, with that suburb. It's look for those big clusters of suburbs within an SA3 or LGA pretty much. But actually just to finish up on the suburb search, so we had the data there. So I'm just going to bring up the Perth suburbs that we just had. And another thing, so like now that we've got the SA3s, we can actually click on, for example, Gosnells, and it'll take us, and then we can start diving in a bit more where we can look at the actual suburbs within Gosnells now. So it makes it easier. Again, you have to get familiar with the tool, but like we're obviously in it every day. And you got market metrics, heat maps. So we're trying to make it easy as we can for the user.
Yeah. Then this is the navigation. Navigation was a problem on the old website. So what you could do in suburb search is you could look for significant urban areas. Places like Cairns and Geelong and Gladstone and Geraldton, and then you want to drill down into one of those and look at the suburbs or the postcodes. So one of the big benefits here is we aggregate data to larger geographies like postcodes, SA2s, SA3s, even state level. In fact, you can get metrics on Australia.
And how about we look at, I guess, historical charts, and we can maybe use that Gosnells as a good rolling into Gosnells, so we can have a look at maybe how it's performed the last maybe 18 months or so.
Sure.
Because ideally, if you are using sort of any service, I think 18 months is like a nice sweet spot from when you bought it to work out, okay, well, have I really had a good experience with a buyer's agent?
Yeah, you might get into a market too early and you're looking after 12 months, it hasn't really turned. But by 18 months, you should have a pretty clear idea of whether you have bought in the wrong place or the right place.
So I've just typed in Gosnells and I'm looking for the LGA. I'm looking for houses.
It was SA3, wasn't it?
SA3, you are correct. So if we just go Gosnells, so Gosnells SA3, houses, looking at the last 18 months, and all we're going to do here is just go get quote, 35 cents, and then you're going to hover over it, and it's had about what? So it's had a 25.5 uplift in growth. So if you purchase back in January 2024, this is grabbing all the suburbs within that SA3. So it's like an average of all of them. So I'm sure there's a lot of outperformers in there, but a rise of 152,000. So you would have purchased at about 600, 598. It's a pretty good return on investment.
Yeah, well, that's about 100,000 a year, which is pretty good for just sitting on your hands.
And then if we go back even further, let's just say we want to have a look at the last maybe... let's go 4 years. How's that sound? You get data. It's gone up 74%, 319,000. So 4 years ago, you could have bought in for 432,000. Not bad.
Yeah, not too shabby.
So I guess the great thing about the platform is you can look at all the data points and work out how the DSR3 algorithm is working.
Yeah, you go back like 5 years, test out your research methodology, pick back then what would have been the best suburbs using your method, and then you can see how they have performed over that period of time.
Maybe we should type in, let's go Melbourne also, just for the viewers. Melbourne, we'll just go, what, SUA maybe, or SA3?
What is it you're trying to do here?
Yeah, maybe actually, I was going to have a look at maybe Melbourne as a whole, the growth rate
how
the
it's
last.
performed.
Yeah, so
yeah.
maybe just the SUA.
Yes, be almost flat.
Because a lot of, it's flat, definitely. So it's had a 2% uplift the last 4 years. So imagine buying 4 years ago in Melbourne and then buying in Perth and not buying in Perth.
Yeah, the opportunity cost there we've just seen.
But you're going to have a lot of these old school buyers agents. Don't worry about the data. Don't worry about the data. It's all about on the ground. It's about, the cars on the lawn and the lawns need to be tidy and the coffee shops. That's what they're going to tell you, Yeah, there's a new Pilates studio down the road. Like the capital growth here is going to be immense.
Yeah, that's a long time to be holding negatively geared property, and that's slower than the rate of inflation over that period of time, a lot slower.
And we can go in there and you can add like a secondary metric and then you can just work out, I guess we can add a new plot here to go, okay, well, let's just go Perth. Well, what was it? Gosnells, wasn't it? Gosnells, SA3. I remember when I first had the platform, it took a little bit of getting used to, but now that I'm in it all the time, I don't even look at DSR data. You hit get data. This is what I like about it. You can really compare, and maybe a little bit hard to see, just hover over it, but you can just go 74% versus 2%.
Yeah, so 72% difference.
Hurts.
On, let's say, $400,000 property. The opportunity cost is well over $250,000. Looking at the right data versus the wrong data.
And I guess what are some early signs that someone should look for, I guess, within these charts? So I know the answer, but I hope I know the answer. But
early signs.
So let's say we're looking into a market, you want to jump in. How can you use historical charts? So you've gone to Suburb Search, you've done your due diligence. Now you've got historical charts. How would you look at it? Yeah,
so there's a few uses for historical charts. The one I know you're alluding to is if a market's been flat for a long time and the demand is starting to pick up with respect to supply, you should start to see that curve pick up in the most recent month. So you can check it for that. But there's another thing that I use it for, and this is particularly the case for like vacancy rates, just to weed out the volatility. From month to month, could be up 1 month, down the next. With really sensitive metrics like vacancy rates, I like to look at a chart just to run my eye through that line and see what the typical value is rather than what the latest month is. So volatility is one thing to check for. There are some people who like checking for trends. The DSR3 actually includes an analysis of trends, so you don't actually need to do that unless you're researching something else. But some people like to look at trends.
I think, if we look at, like, for example for Sydney versus Melbourne, TV versus market cycle timing. Again, I think I've got it on the tutorial video that I mentioned. We'll just hit that. But this is where you can sort of look at multiple metrics on the same chart. So, for example, like, let's just go, Sydney had a total change from so July 2015 to around early 2022, picked up by about 89%. But then you can see that red bar chart below the MCT's low because it's already had a big run. You can see that MCT score drop off with that red bar chart. But now you can see that the MCT is a lot higher for Melbourne because it's been so stagnant.
Wow, yeah, that is a big, long climb there. Yeah.
But look, I guess this is a thing, if you bought back in 2015, you've still done okay. Like 76% total growth. But again, that's below the national average.
Yeah. So you want to be outperforming the national average, but when you have a long period of underperformance,
you're going to get that
primes a market for above average performance into the future.
The goal always is for that sort of first 3 to 4 years, get that capital growth as quick as possible. And look, there are markets that are very strong, like obviously Darwin's on the radar from a data point of view, a lot of regional markets. But again, it comes back to your hold period. Like if you're planning on holding a lot longer, then I'd maybe pivot out of those markets. But if I want to get in and out, retire ASAP and be really active, they're markets that I would potentially explore then.
Yeah, so you're talking about the smaller regional markets. Yeah, they may not be the best for a long hold, but they are fantastic for, the get in, get out.
Well, they're easier to sell, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, over the truly long term, like we're talking 20, 30 years, I think they're no different than the big SUAs. There could be a period of time, and it could last for like 15 years, where the market is depressed. And that's what you probably want to avoid, whereas the larger markets tend to tick along. Although we did have, Perth at the end of the downturn in the resources sector, that had quite a long period of depressed growth.
And I think back to that point, like with these regional markets, what I mean by they're easier to sell is the yields. Like a lot of people are just so yield focused. Like we see it all the time, like yield. But that 1% yield, it doesn't matter. Like people, but they sell it, they market it. The yield is super important. It's going to hold you back if you go into a low yield. It's not going to hold you back. A low yield won't hold you back.
The research you've got to do, the fight that you've got to do to get just an extra 1.5% yield, what it eliminates is a much broader range of markets across the country, one of which is going to have capital growth far greater than the 1.5% yield that you've pursued.
And what you can do is, like back to the example, like there are markets, for example, if you look at Brisbane before it had a big boom, like that DSR was really strong. The DSR3 was really strong for a long period before it actually started picking up. So sometimes it might take a bit of time for that market to move. So you can hold off. You can go a little bit early. I prefer to see a bit of an uplift before you start jumping in.
I would rather get into a market 6 months late and know I'm in the right market than get into a market that's still got 2 years of flat growth ahead of it.
And then what if you hear, Jeremy, I've just missed out. I've missed out on all that growth.
Well, there's always new markets.
Exactly.
We're seeing Darwin pump up at the moment. Melbourne's starting to lift.
But it doesn't pivot like shares and crypto. It's not as volatile. So like you're still early. If it's 6 months, well, you're still
that's nothing.
You're more than likely like Perth. Perth is still going to move.
Yeah, people have been talking for over a year now about Perth approaching its peak or even peaking, and it's still keeping on growing.
So let's jump into heat maps. So we're in heat maps now. How does it show demand versus supply? So like we've got, let's say, Melbourne SUA. We can even bring it down a little bit further, but maybe we can actually use, but let's just say use Sydney. How's that sound? We go Sydney SUA. Sydney SUA, we're looking for suburbs and we're going to be looking for units. And now, again, we've got set criteria set. So everyone can customize their own reports, but we do have default favorites in here, default saved searches. But in my default one, I've got things like statistical reliability, typical value, vacancy, gross rental yield, stock on market, count of dwellings. So you can just add whatever you like. But why did you build heat maps for? Why did we build heat maps?
Yeah, there are sometimes suburbs, which I mentioned before, they can be isolated. They're just one-offs. And it doesn't give you as much confidence when there's a whole area, like an entire postcode or local government area, where all the suburbs are hot. Whereas by hot, I mean they all have high demand to supply ratio. And if you do a suburb search, you might see a few suburbs appear in the same significant urban area, but you'd like to see where they are on the map, and the heat map's a great way of seeing where are the hot areas. It'll show clusters of heat.
So if we just hit get data for that, actually, how much is that going to cost me? It's going to cost me a little bit because it's Sydney and it's a big area, $109. Is that expensive?
The reason why that's costing you so much is you have too many metrics in there. Do you really need to look at all those metrics?
I need all those metrics. So I'm happy to pay that $109.
What are you using heat maps for? It's just to find where the cluster of heat is, right? So that's the DSR3. later on you can use market metrics to have a good look at the suburbs that you're interested in.
That's true, but I like to look at things like, I know that I can filter by certain things. I can filter by yield and I can filter by vacancy
All
rate.
right,
I can
well, show us how you do that.
Okay, and if we hit, let's get data, it should notify me because it's exceeding my $52 limit that I've set in place. I was being cheeky with it, testing it out to see if it worked. Now, let's just go full screen on this one. All right, it's taking a bit of time to load. All righty, so this is Sydney. All right, so now what we can see is on the left-hand side, I've got my filters. So, you know, I've got dwellings, stock on market, vacancy, yield, whatever I'd like to pick. But let's just say we want to look for a market.
Can you just stop for a second? Straight away when I look at that,
Mm-hmm.
what are you seeing up in the northwest? There's a lot more heat in the northwest.
A lot more.
Now, this is the outer suburbs of Sydney, and this is units. You're searching for units.
Units.
So I'm assuming that the statistical reliability is an important filter you need to apply right now, because those are not known for their units, those outer areas. And so the DSR may be high, but it's unreliable.
Well, I've just clicked on the one there, Yellow Rock in Blue Mountains, no data. So it's got a DSR3 score of 64, but the statistical reliability 3 score is 17.
Yeah, so the database is trying to guess with very little information. So that's why you need to filter by statistical reliability.
Bang.
There we go.
It just knocked out a ton of suburbs. And then from here, I would overlay it with, let's just say I want a market of 60 plus, ideally more. Let's just say 65. Doesn't give me many options, does it? Okay, so there's a bit of a cluster around Kellyville. What's a dwelling count there? Okay, so there's a fair few units there. It's just not enough for me though. Rouse Hill. Look, the yields are okay. Maybe not that fantastic for units, like 4.8%.
If you're going to be buying a unit, isn't that because you're restricted by price?
Potentially, or another reason is I want to buy a unit in Sydney. So actually that's another good example. Let's say you're an owner-occupier and you want to buy your first unit, you live in Sydney and you want to buy in Sydney.
You might be looking to do a reno job on a unit.
Maybe. So that could be another way that you can utilize the platform.
Put in typical value as a filter.
Let's just say the budget is maybe 700,000 as an example. And then we can start going by the DSR3. Let's just say 60 or more. And again, it's sort of similar pocket, isn't it? It's more to the west.
Well, this is an investor or an owner-occupier who is really restricted on budget, but they have chosen definitely has to be Sydney. So you're not going to find houses for 700,000 in Sydney. Slim pickings. Yeah,
or for example, for the unit, like let's say your budget's 700. Even if you said, look, my budget's 600,000, you're not even factoring in the DSR. Like you can see around that sort of Parramatta is maybe the area that you might be, like Marylands.
Yeah, there's some low DSR scores.
That's right. That's if you don't take the DSR score into consideration whatsoever. So it could be a bit of a balancing act. Maybe you are looking for a market that has potential for growth, and that really limits you out to sort of Penrith Way, St. Mary's, Warrington, Kingswood. So not much there. That's for units. So that's just an example.
Yeah.
Anything to add? But I think it's a great tool. The heat maps, I use it all the time.
Yeah, we can grab those sliders, slide them left and right, and it shows in real time. I think that's what people really like about this tool.
Alrighty, so I think that's a bit of a sneak peek. We've obviously got the other metrics too. What have we got? The other features we've got. So we've gone through suburb search, heat maps, historical charts. You got market metrics and context rulers. Again, the tutorials are on our website and our YouTube channel. But yeah, I thought it was important to give everyone a bit of a run through. We are making enhancement. It is version 1, but what features are coming next, Jez?
More statistics that people like to filter by, and there'll be some more data visualizations, different data visualizations, and there's a few inconveniences that we'll resolve as we find more users. They use the website in a different way to we do, so we just We're just going to make it more convenient.
And we do encourage feedback. So in the top right-hand corner, you can hit the little chat button with the feedback icon, and you can provide feedback. So, we do review it. And also, if you do get stuck, we do have the help in the bottom right-hand corner. We're here to help. Any teasers for big releases or anything that we've got planned coming up, Jeremy? We don't want to mention it yet.
Yeah, we do have a new series coming up. I don't want to say anything about it. It's
people almost we're going to get sick of just hearing us too. We're coming up to episode 50, so I think it's good to, I don't know, spruce it up a little bit. Series.
This next series I think is going to blow people away.
So make sure you like this episode. So if we get to maybe 20 likes or something, I don't even know how many likes we normally get, but if we get to 20 likes, then we'll push the series out a little bit earlier. So I guess where can listeners go, Jez, for more resources? Our new Suburb Data website.
Yeah, suburbdata.com.au. Sign up for the research platform. You can have a play around. It's completely free until you want to look at real data. And if you're interested in more of this sort of content, more tutorials on how to use the website, give us a thumbs up and subscribe for when more become available. And
we are listening. So, as I said, leave comments, be it via Spotify and YouTube. I'm not sure if you can do it via Apple. Adam, can you do it via Apple or not? Any comments on the Apple, iTunes or anything? You can't do it, can you? Yeah, so YouTube and Spotify are the main avenues. But thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it and see you in our next episode. Take care and bye for now.